Can you do an ID?
What was that?
Hey, I'm Jason Momoa. You're listening to Q with Tom Power. Tom Power's my name.
Hey, I'm Jason Momoa. You're listening to Q with Tom Power.
Now into Dothraki. I'm joking.
Je gelane diarrhea. Tom Power. Q.
What's he saying?
He says yes.
Jason Momoa is probably best known as a horse-riding barbarian in Game of Thrones, but now he's tackling the Canadian frontier. I'm Tom Power. This is Q.
So you've got the head of the HBC who you were raised by, you were groomed to lead, and then now you're taking on your father. Sounds like Star Wars when I talk about it.
It does, but it's kind of Star Wars. You're right.
Plus, Marquees Christmas. He's the 17-year-old star of the film Morris from America.
I don't need friends. I'm gangster.
You'll hear all about how he landed the part.
I didn't think any of this was going to happen just from me doing those little YouTube videos.
And Tegan and Sara. This year, they released their 8th studio record, Love You to Death. They dropped by Studio Q to do something a little special with it, a little different.
A lot of times the nucleus of a song is just a melody and one kind of chord progression, and sometimes it's interesting to strip it back after you've heard it kind of done the popped up way.
All of this, along with comedian Kevin Banner, is happening right now on Q. So in the last few years, some of the most popular shows you see on TV take you to places that it's hard for you to imagine on your own. Like take, for instance, the mystical off-the-map island in Lost, or the far reaches of the multiverse in The Flash. But this new show, Frontier, it goes in almost an exactly different direction. Its setting may be familiar.
The Hudson's Bay Company has controlled the northern trade for 100 years.
So that's a clip from a new historical drama television series called Frontier, starring Jason Momoa. And no, you're not hearing things. That actually was a reference to the Hudson's Bay Company, because Frontier is all about Canadian history. It takes place in the real world, back in 1780. It follows the fight to control the James Bay fur trade, something you might have learned about in high school history.
I want Declan Harp.
I recently sat down with Jason Momoa. He's the actor who plays the lead character in Frontier, Declan Harp. But if you're a Game of Thrones fan, you don't know him as Declan Harp, you know him as Khal Drogo. Or maybe you're waiting for him to be Aquaman in the upcoming Justice League movie. That's why I was so excited to talk to Jason about this role, because it takes place in the real world. Here's our conversation. Jason, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
How are you?
I'm awesome.
Good. I tell you what you are, man. You're in demand. Like, you are hotly wanted in a lot of different projects in Hollywood, in television, and you said yes to Frontier. What was it about Frontier that made you want to do it?
I really, really love this time period. I love the 1780s, 90s, that late 18th century, and I love the fur trade. When the script came to me in the very beginning, Brad Payton and Jeff Ferguson came down to my house, and I wanted to show them that I was this character. And I had furs everywhere. I got a tomahawk course at my house.
Just there?
Make knives. Yeah. I throw tomahawks, shoot bow and arrow, and I am this guy. I always wanted to play it. And when I talked to them more about where we're going to take this character, it was really being a father and being, having children. If my family were to be, I don't like to think about it, but if something bad would happen to them or my wife or my child, what would I do? And I'd probably do what Declan's doing. So it was interesting to go to those places because obviously that would never happen, this way. And it was fun as an actor to go to these dark places, and I've never done that before yet. So,
did it feel like you were kind of exploring yourself a little bit, like as you were preparing for this role? I only say that because you said that, like you thought about your own family.
Yeah, I mean, I tried not to think about them because it would just upset me too much. But right. you definitely try to build a family and then think about them. But it was, it's definitely I've never went to those places before, and pretty heart wrenching. And then I mean, from the first episode and second episode, you don't really sympathize with him. He's pretty.
Yeah.
It's almost like Game of Thrones. Like, these guys, you don't like me until at least 5th episode.
Yeah,
So
that
I
seems to be your
enjoy
character.
that.
Your characters are slow burns.
You're going to eventually empathize with him.
The soldiers found us wandering in the wilderness at last. They're going to take us back to the fort.
And why were you wandering in the wilderness?
I was looking for you. I want to make my fortune in the fur trade, and here you're the man to help me do it.
You're gonna have to do better than that, bud.
Tell me a little bit about Declan. Who is Declan?
Who is Declan? Declan was raised by basically his arch enemies is kind of like his stepfather. So the head of HBC raised him, and then had his family killed unbeknownst to him. So you never know who did it. And it's basically his own dad. And he finds out what that man did to his dad. So you've got the head of the HBC who you were raised by, you were groomed to lead, and then now you're basically taking on your father. Sounds like Star Wars when I talk about it.
It does, but it's kind of Star Wars. You're right. Yeah,
but it's it's going head on with the English, who was at the head of it is his father who raised him.
And his background is interesting. Declan's.
He's half Irish, and then he's half native.
Half native, and you are of mixed heritage as well.
Yeah.
I mean, was that something? Like, tell me a little bit about how you approached his background, how you approached this role.
Well, I mean, my mother's of Irish and German descent, a little bit of native, and my father's full Hawaiian. So, Declan's Irish, and we didn't really sign on if he was Cree or if he was Métis, but he was. How I identify with that is just being kind of growing up in Iowa, a bit of an outcast. He wasn't really accepted in. He wasn't accepted in. I wasn't too accepted.
You weren't too accepted?
No, where I grew up, no. There wasn't any races where I grew up. There's no Chinese, there's no Mexican, there was no black.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in small town Iowa.
Like real small?
I graduated with 100 people. Like Bridges, Madison County, that's my county.
That's
like
really?
Small town Iowa,
and you felt a little bit, I could only imagine you must have felt a little bit.
When I was little, yeah. And then, but I mean, all my mom's side was there, but I was born in Hawaii, so I'd go see my father, but on that side, it was very, they call it haole, you know what I mean?
They call it what?
Haole.
Haole?
Haole, which it's supposed to mean without breath, but they normally call white people or tourists that, you know what I mean? So they just wasn't accepted on the local side, with some people, because I wasn't raised in Hawaii. So I don't know, I just kind of identify as being that outcast and not really fitting into two different worlds. So, I mean, that's one thing that helped me with Declan.
The producers of the project, or just two of the producers of the project. I know you're an executive producer on the project, Rob and Peter Blackie. They've written about their goal of dramatizing events in an accurate and respectful way to Canada's Indigenous people. If I could get you to put on your executive producer hat for a second, I mean, how important is that to you?
Well, put it this way. I've played 3 Indigenous characters in movies before. I learned the language. I learned everything that needs to happen. But I know when Peter and Rob, when they first met with me, that was absolute importance for them to get everything historically right. We want to be able to play as fiction characters in that world, but it's the utmost importance. Yeah, so I can't be representing. I mean, there's not too many Indigenous people I look up to. It's actually, I mean, it's very important for me to get it right.
Right, yeah, and to not to glamorize or over dramatize.
It's not just glamorized, but I mean, there's room. Like when I did Red Road, I'm playing a certain character that's a mix. Just because you're one race doesn't mean there's not a bad seed in there. I mean, there's idiots in every culture. You know what I mean? So just because when I went to go interview with this tribe, I was like, you're not gonna like me. You're not. But his own mother doesn't like him, so it's not based around his culture. You know what I mean? It's the man, it's the person. So it was really cool to do a contemporary Native piece. That's just very rare that we had that. So it's exciting to be able to tell this history and be half, the kind of the half-breed in this. So
this is something you learn about growing up in Canada in like junior high and in high school. I'm curious as to how much you knew about this before you started the project.
I mean, a little bit, not as much as like when Peter and Rob gave me the whole. I mean, I didn't know there was such bloodshed and so much, what the English had done to that extent, but not as much as I've heard since I've been here. Yeah, how you guys learn about it so much more than we do in junior high and high school.
Like, what do you want them to get out of it when they watch it? When they watch an episode and they watch the next episode and they stop. Like, what do you want them to get out of it?
I think what I get out of it
Yeah.
I like to disappear into this world. I like to go on the journey. I like the action adventure of it. I like disappearing into that. Like when I watch The Revenant, it's like, what did I get out of it? I'm like, I don't know. I love going on that journey and living in that world.
But this is a real world. A lot of this stuff. This is set.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, and this was set. You got to spend some time in my home province to do this.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
And Nova Scotia, which that spot, that little location out in Sydney, is that right?
Sydney and Cape Breton. Yeah. It's a lovely spot.
That was some history.
What-
That was walking those streets and knowing someone lived out there because it was freezing. And if you just went like 2 miles in, you probably wouldn't have such hard times. Orban died of dysentery. It was pretty heavy out there.
You feel like saying
There's a
to
lot
him-
of ghosts out there.
My father used to say to me when we wake up in Newfoundland on a cold day, and we'd have to put on our sweaters, and it'd be in the middle of July. And it was a fellow who discovered Newfoundland, John Cabot, discovered like modern Newfoundland. And I used to say, if John Cabot was here, man, I'd wring his neck. Like why did we have to settle here?
Man, that's beautiful up there, though.
Well, yeah. What were your impressions of Eastern Canada?
I've never seen storms like that. I mean, I've seen storms like that in Iowa, but they're called tornadoes. And so when a squall comes in and it's like completely the winds, the gales, the size of the snow, and then it melts off in 2 days and you're like, what just happened? It's just kind of surreal sometimes when the storms come in. It's just wild. So, I mean, it's just, also when we were shooting up there, what I really liked is that, when you, obviously I shot in Vancouver, so it's huge trees, right?
Yeah.
But you're in Newfoundland and it's just like, they're really, really tall. It's just, the ecosystem out there is just different. I mean, that's why they call it the rock.
Yeah.
But they're just not rooted enough, so they're very small trees, right?
Yeah.
It's just not what I expected when I came up there, but it was just offered this, like I just shot in Iceland for Aquaman, and I feel like Newfoundland has that just otherworldly. It just really adds a cinematic quality to the films, and I just, it's beautiful.
And I have to disclose something, given that this was made in Newfoundland, is that my brother Brian worked on both one of the projects you were shooting in Newfoundland, and he also worked on Frontier. So I need to get that out of the way. But how did the people of Newfoundland, like how did my fellow Newfoundlanders treat you?
Everyone's amazing because it feels like no one bothered me. Everyone kind of felt like home. It kind of felt like where I grew up. Someone that would just open up the door, let you in, cook you a meal, sit down, talk story, and then have this great musical night with them. I mean, they're just very warm. And like I was saying earlier, it just kind of felt like, because I lived in Ireland for 8 months in Belfast, and so it kind of had an Irish feeling to me. It's Canadian, but it still has
It's
very,
ish. Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it's just not like that anywhere else in Canada, though. I don't feel like Newfoundland's it's pretty distinctive. I lived in Toronto. I lived in Vancouver. Newfoundland and the East Coast is definitely, it's just totally different.
Did you
enjoy it?
Any particular people stand out for you? Any particular stories? Because I have to admit, like when you were there,
yeah,
and I'm here in Toronto, my Facebook feed was just inundated with pictures of you at like restaurants, people coming up and taking the pictures. You're very generous. You're
I'm living on fly on a wall in your place. So I'm just like I like to, we'd go out and I'd get I guess I went out and we did those big fat tire bikes. You ever seen those?
Yeah.
But it snowed up there, and so they're like, I met some guys at the bike shop. They're like, yeah, come down and test out a bike. And then I just bought a bike, and then next thing you know, I'm like zipping through the forest in the snow, which you're not really supposed to do. It should never work, but it does. And when you're going fast through it, it's amazing. But I just, go out with people like that. That was amazing. You play hockey. I mean, I grew up I still love hockey. So, I played with Hawko. He's amazing. Mm-hmm. Got my butt kicked by all those guys. But it's like, Terry Ryan became one of my dear friends. He still is.
Former NHLer Terry Ryan,
man,
former Montreal Canadian.
Yeah, comedian / amazing human. He's just, I have made a lot of great friends up there and excited to go back out and play hockey. They don't let me, which is hilarious, but I do.
You're not allowed to play hockey?
No, but the producers are, they
Why not?
They don't want me to get hurt because they don't want to lose all the money, but you know what?
But you're so big, man. You can't get hurt playing hockey. You're going to crush anybody.
No, these guys, you guys are good. So, but they're just worried about,
We're fast and wily.
Yeah.
I mean, I can only imagine, like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that the town you grew up in Iowa was so small. Like, and I can only imagine, like, there is that moment where you go from, like, hey, I'm an actor. I grew up here. I'm an actor. I'm trying. And then all of a sudden, Game of Thrones happens. And you were acting before that, but it was you became one of the biggest things, you know? And like, what's that like, man? What's that like to be sitting at a restaurant and for people to be coming up asking for pictures, to be walking down the street
I was pretty interesting. They definitely just leave me alone.
But no, just in your daily life, like I only
Daily
imagine
life?
that must be
Yeah,
different.
I mean, it's always a trip. It's always a trip to because if you knew me, you wouldn't want one. You know what I mean? It's not to me. It's no big deal. But having said that, like if I saw Tom Waits, and I freak out. You know what I mean? It's like whatever. You know, if you really love something. Everyone's really nice about it. So.
You don't mind taking the time. Like some people,
No,
like, they don't want to do it.
Just depends. I mean, like you just have to understand everyone's human. You know what I mean? You don't know what happened in my day. You don't know if there's bad news that came through. Some people are grumpy. It's just like the way it is. You know what I mean?
I do. Well, not really, but
listen. If I'm with my kids, it's best to stay away. If I'm not, and I'm having a beer, you should come have a beer with me.
Yeah.
That's how it works. If I'm with my kids, I don't want them to know I'm just Papa. That's all I like to keep it as.
If you're on a big, do they know? Like, do they know what a big deal it is? Do they get it?
They're just getting it. You know, they're 9 and he's gonna be 8. I just took my son to Comic-Con, which was crazy. Wow. Yeah, and I don't want to do that, but at the same time, I'm like, you know, it's gonna be the first thing he's gonna be able to watch because you know they're not gonna watch Game of Thrones, they're not watching Conan, they're not watching a lot of my shows. So I'm excited for them to see, you know, Justice League.
Do you have to tell them like, hey, just let you know?
Well, they're on set with me.
Dad's kind of a big deal.
It was I don't do that, but you know, it's cool because you know I brought them on set. And I'm like, hey, meet Batman. My son's obsessed with Batman, and my daughter's obsessed with Wonder Woman. So it's cool, like. They got to put the tiara. He puts a tiara on, and he puts the cowl on, and you know it's cool to be able to do that as a dad. Ride on the Batmobile. It's kind of amazing. I mean, like
that's a cool opportunity for them.
That's a cool opportunity. So, yeah.
I don't want to keep you much longer, but I think the staff of Q, the show, would throw me into a closet and leave me there if I don't ask this question.
Jeez.
Because 6 or 7 different people have asked me to make sure I ask you this. And I keep on saying, I don't think he's going to answer it.
Am I coming back to it?
Are you coming back to Game of Thrones?
Come back. You just gotta keep watching, man. You never know what's going to happen.
Still to come on Q, Morris from America star Marquees Christmas joins me.
Someone recognized me as like I have a talent. I really wasn't expecting all this movie stuff to come about.
But first, a performance and chat with Tegan and Sara.
You treat me like your boyfriend. I think Canadian people have heard this popped up version way too many times, so this is a good version for everyone to just calm down to. I don't want to be a secret anymore.
John, this is kind of a boy set. Did you know we were girls? Where's all the flowers and
So if you can believe this, Tegan and Sara, these twin musical superstars from this country, have been playing music together for 2 decades.
How about you and me, we go get wasted.
They've gone from singing folk songs in coffee shops to destroying stadiums as pop stars. And this year they released their 8th studio record. It's called Love You to Death. And it's a really perfect example of how Tegan and Sara have mastered the art of pop songwriting. But they dropped by Studio Q last week to do something a little special, a little different. What they did was they performed stripped-down renditions of their songs, and I really think it's something you're going to enjoy. Plus, if you've never heard a Tegan and Sara interview before, prepare yourself. The Quinn sisters are quick on their feet. They had me on my toes. Here now is my conversation with Tegan and Sara. I'm joined now in the Q Music Studio, the brand new one that we just kind of took the plastic off a couple of days ago.
It looks really nice in here, by the way.
Isn't it
Super
gorgeous?
swank.
That's the first time I've seen that purple Q there. Looks good.
Looks great. It looks kind of prince-ish.
Yeah, I feel kind of prince-ish.
Yeah.
I do.
I was going to say.
Thank you, by the way. That's very kind. Radio is very kind to me, by the way. The new record is called Love You to Death. It's a real like pop explosion, synths and program beats, huge vocals. But you're here today with the grand piano. Mm-hmm. We're going to hear something special. What song are you going to do first?
So we're going to start with the single Boyfriend. but we're going to play it on piano. That's sort of exciting for us to sometimes showcase the songwriting in a totally different way. You dropped your papers.
Well, that's because I'm
This is a real professional show that we're on.
That's because I'm a professional radio broadcaster.
Kind of Canadian.
You're fine,
Just
you're
kidding.
fine.
That's adorable.
How did you? Well,
it's so Canadian of you.
It was an essay writing contest, and I came fourth.
I can't believe you interrupted my super interesting story.
I'm glad it woke me up.
But so I think the question is that like, is this closer to how it was written? Did you write it on piano?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I wrote it on a fake piano on my computer, but yeah, I mean, a lot of times the nucleus of a song is just a melody and one kind of chord progression, and sometimes it's interesting to strip it back after you've heard it kind of done the popped up way. And I think Canadian people have heard this popped up version way too many times, so this is a good version for everyone to just calm down to.
Tell you that I love you, that I can't hold back. The feeling that you give me, wanna give it right back. I know you always win at this particular game. I need to know the rules if you want me to play. You treat me like your boyfriend and trust me like a very best friend. Kiss me like your boyfriend. You call me up like you would your best friend. You turn me on like you would your boyfriend. I don't wanna be a secret anymore. I'm trying to be honest, cause I can't be lax. Oh, when I get around you, I can't hide the fact I let you take advantage cause it felt so good. I blame myself for thinking we both understood. You treat me like your boyfriend and trust me like a very best friend. Kiss me like your boyfriend. You call me up like you would your best friend. You turn me on like you would your boyfriend. But I don't wanna be your secret. I don't wanna play the crying game. Do you feel the same? You feel the same. Don't wanna spin the bottle again. Do you feel the same? You feel the same. You treat me like your boyfriend and trust me like a very best friend. Kiss me like your boyfriend. You call me up like you would your best friend. You turn me on like you would your boyfriend. I don't wanna be your secret anymore. You treat me like your boyfriend and trust me like a very best friend. Kiss me like your boyfriend. You call me up like you would your best friend. You turn me on like you would your boyfriend. But I don't wanna be your secret anymore.
Coming up, more music from Tegan and Sara, but first, I talked to Marquees Christmas about his breakout role in Morris from America.
I didn't think any of this was gonna happen just from me doing those little YouTube videos.
When movie directors need to cast young actors, what they often look for is raw talent. These are unknown kids who don't have much experience.
I see dead people.
But rarely do they make as big a splash as Marquees Christmas has.
I don't need friends. I'm gangster.
Marquees is the star of the new Sundance Film Festival hit. It's called Morris from America. And it tells the story of Morris Gentry. He's 13 years old. He and his dad have moved to Germany from the United States, and they really are the only two black people in the town of Heidelberg.
What you say, Mary, your mother's an alcoholic.
Tell me you can't dance to that.
It's got no hook.
Go to your room, you grounded.
For what?
Because you like terrible music.
The man playing his father, you might recognize him, Craig Robinson. You might know him from The Office, Hot Tub Time Machine, Pineapple Express.
This is so exciting.
And Craig is a veteran. But it seems as if 17-year-old Marquees Christmas came out of nowhere to star in the film. In fact, this is his first movie role ever. And how he got here is a pretty incredible story. Marquees Christmas is here with me now in studio to tell us all about it.
I do hate it here.
My man. I know. But check it. I know you don't want to hit us right now, but one day, when you lighten the hip-hop world on fire, it'll be because you have a unique perspective. And when you collecting all your Source Awards, you'll thank me.
Source Awards? Is that as far as I get in your dreams?
All right, you're right.
Can I get a Grammy or something?
Nobel Prize, how about that? Thank me in that speech.
Hey, man.
What's up?
How are you?
I'm doing good.
Before you got chosen to play this part, tell me what your life was like.
Man, I mean, I was just really living the life of a kid. I was just having fun.
Yeah?
Really, just living.
You never saw this happening?
No.
No.
I'm gonna tell the truth. Like I didn't think any of this was gonna happen just from me doing those little YouTube videos. I wasn't expecting all this.
What YouTube videos?
Well, that's how I started out.
Hey, Marquees, come on in.
I mean, that's kind of how Chad found me.
What was in those YouTube videos?
Me just fooling around, walking around in dresses and wigs.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty funny, comedy.
Where did you grow up?
Los Angeles, California, Baldwin Village, to be exact.
Tell me a little bit about that.
I mean, that's a rough part of town right there. I mean, to tell the truth, it's really not the place to raise kids.
No. And how did you get noticed for this role? Like, when he saw you on YouTube and got in touch with you, I mean, how did that feel?
It felt great. I mean, someone recognized me as, like, I have a talent. I really wasn't expecting all this movie stuff to come about until Chad started telling me about, like, Sundance and stuff, and, like, it was kind of a weird process.
Tell me about your audition for the director, for Chad Hartigan.
I was super nervous. It was my first audition ever, so I was really nervous. I didn't know what to do. I mean, how to like play it out, but it ended up working.
And this character you played, Morris, how did you feel about the character? Did you relate to him?
I related to him as far as his relationship with his father. It's just like me and my pops. It's the same thing. It's just I don't curse at him. It's just I don't curse at him. But.
And you got to work with Craig Robinson. You know, we know him as the comedian from The Office, the actor from Hot Tub Time Machine. He plays your dad in the movie. What was it like to work with Craig?
I was just honored just to be there with Craig. I mean, have a chance to meet him. Like, I'm telling you, I was a fanboy and I didn't even know his name until I actually Googled him. When Chad told me that Craig Robinson was playing my dad, I was like, who is that? I mean, it's a pretty common name. So I Googled him, seen that this is the guy that played in Zack and Miri, Hot Tub Time Machine, a lot of stuff that I've seen that I wasn't supposed to be watching. But yeah.
What do you think he'd say about working with you? Like, how do you think he felt about working with you?
That's a question you'll have to ask him.
Well, let's do it. Craig, you there?
Yep.
Craig, what's up?
What's up, Marquees? How's Canada, man?
Oh, it's beautiful, man. What's going on, brother?
Not much. I was just over there in Toronto. And greetings to you, sir host. I hear you over there.
Thanks, man. So maybe answer the question for Marquees. What was it like working with him?
Oh, he's a natural. You know, it was surprising because, you know, he hadn't done anything like this outside of his videos, which was what made me want to work with him because I saw his, like, natural sense of humor. But he's a natural, and then he pushed me, you know, to levels. Like, if you check out that car scene, every time I looked over, he had a tear running down his cheek. You know, it was like, okay, I see what you're doing here. So, you know, he took me places that raised both of our performances.
I wanted to ask you about that driving scene in Morse from America, Marquees. Like, it's right at the end of the movie. You guys have this really kind of heartfelt, really beautiful father-son conversation. What was that scene like for you, Marquees?
So actually shooting the scene, Craig, you can back me up on this. That was the hottest car in the world. But
It was the hardest car in the world. That's correct.
yeah, it was super hot in that car. But I mean, we made it work. I couldn't do it without Craig, though.
Yeah, it was the conditions were crazy, and what was really interesting about the scene, because it's so heavy, we had to go to that emotional place each time. So in between takes, we were like cracking jokes on the DP, because they were wearing these hats and they just looked silly. but it was, and like I said, he pushed me to places that I think that is what made this that scene in the movie garner a lot of attention, because it took us to a real place.
Craig, when you were 17, when you were Marquees' age, what were you doing?
I was graduating high school and going to college, and not unlike Marquees' character, I wasn't ready. I just was just had a beautiful outlook on life, but I didn't know that I was going to have to grow up so soon. So I think that's what happened in that movie. Is like this kid is 13, and he's faced with all these things between love and he's got in a different country. His mother's passed away, and he got peers that don't like him. So, and he's just not ready to face any of it. He's not ready to be an adult. But he tackles it head on, and we all had that awkward age,
Yeah, and just what's your advice to Marquees now? I mean, he's 17. He's trying to navigate Hollywood. Do you have any advice for him?
Well, yeah, Marquees. I don't like to give advice, because it's like, what do I know? But having said that, Marquees, you have a natural gift. You know what I'm saying? So you have your natural instincts, and you have your natural edge. Now, you got to couple that, with like doing what it takes to get to that next level as an actor, because you already got a beautiful head start. So I would just say, keep on studying, keep on making sure you keeping your nose on point on getting this acting thing together, so you can learn the tricks of the trade.
Marquees, how is your life different now than before you made the movie?
I mean, it's totally different. I don't live in my neighborhood anymore.
You moved out?
Yeah, I still visit when I can, see my peoples. I still got family that live over there. I'm still the same Marquees. I don't know how things changed. It's just different location. Oh yeah. I grew like 8 feet. I'm kidding. I grew like 8 feet. Like 8 inches. I slimmed down. I'm not the same little fat Morris anymore.
And you're 17. You're just to wrap up. I mean, you hear Craig give you this advice and this kind of mentorship on your acting career. Like, so what are your dreams in the future of in this business?
Work hard, play hard. That's just my goals. My goals as far as my career. I'm just trying to get to where Craig is, to tell the truth. Just trying to get there. Caught me one of those Suburbans that he got. Nice Suburban.
Well, you got a 10-year head start from when I started, man.
Yeah.
So you'll be passing me in no time.
Guys, thanks so much for coming in today, both of you. Thanks for coming in, Marquees. Craig, thanks for calling in and doing like a This Is Your Life surprise here. When Q continues, Tegan and Sara have another performance for us.
You can't stop desire, oh, 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 stop desire, oh, 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 oh.
And we check in with comedian Kevin Banner.
I was a janitor at the school district that I went to. I got to make daily eye contact with the teachers who told me it wouldn't amount to anything. It was nice. My girlfriend told me that if we got married, she doesn't know if she would take my last name, and that's fine. It's 2016. I would insist that she change her first name to Kevin's wife.
So I love this interview. Vancouver-based comedian Kevin Banner, he's been making a name for himself ever since he had the nerve to trade in being a fan of comedy for a spot on the actual stage.
People ask me how much weight I want to lose. I don't have a goal number. I want to lose enough weight so that people stop assuming I'm good with computers.
Kevin Banner just released Dreamboat. That's his first stand-up album.
It's on the same record label as Carly Rae Jepsen. It's the first comedy album for 604 Records, run by none other than Nickelback frontman Chad Kroeger. So this is Kevin Banner, not as a well-established comedian, but a rare opportunity to speak with someone on the way up. And he sat down with me to tell me all about it. Your new record's called Dreamboat. It debuts at #1 on the iTunes comedy chart.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
It felt like a big deal. It was really exciting. I woke up in the morning and on the 21st, the day of the release, and I was behind a French-Canadian comedian, and I was so disappointed. And by 10 a.m. that day, though, it was in #1, and it was for a day and a half. And then I don't know how their algorithm works, but it quickly dropped out of the top 150. But of course, after this CBCQ appearance,
you're going to get to 149.
Oh, I hope.
At least, maybe 131.
I hope.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. What were you doing before you did stand-up?
I've done all sorts of things. I worked with kids. I was a noon hour supervisor at an elementary school. I was a janitor.
You were a janitor?
I did concrete restoration. Yeah, I was a janitor. I talk about it on my album. I was a janitor at the school district that I went to.
Yeah.
So I got to make daily eye contact with the teachers who told me it wouldn't amount to anything. It was nice. But yeah, all sorts of stuff.
On your record, you talk about, I don't mean to be telling your jokes,
that's
man.
fine.
We can cut it. But I like the moment where the teachers get you to break up something that's happening behind the benches.
Yeah. The teacher said she could smell a certain kind of smoke from a left-handed cigarette coming from behind the gym and asked me if I would go shoo away whoever was there. And of course I said sure, because who's more respected at a high school than the janitor? So
So what was the moment like? I know you were a great fan of stand-up,
Sure.
like a lot of people are, and they harbor these secret desires to get up on stage. What was that moment for you?
For me, I think it was I went to see a comedy tour. I don't want to say specifically because I'm about to talk bad about some of the people on it. But no, I went to see a comedy tour that came through Victoria, and I thought I could do that. Because prior to that, my real experience with stand-up was mostly George Carlin and Chris Rock, because I'd watch boxing on HBO with my dad on a Saturday night, and if the fight ended early because of a knockout or whatever, they'd put on a comedy special to fill the time. And so I remember thinking, like, I couldn't do that. Like George Carlin and Chris Rock, they had a lot of social commentary and just really a lot of gravitas. But I was like, well, that's not me. But then I saw this comedy tour come through Victoria, and I was like, well, I could do that. I didn't know that was part of it,
What's
too.
that? Like it was more confessional?
It was more fun. Like it was just silly kind of, there wasn't a lot of depth to it, and the interacting, the playing with the crowd. And I was like, well, I think I could do that. So 6 months later, I started for the very first time. And I started in Victoria, BC, where there was no real stand-up scene at the time. So I would go to music open mics and ask if I could go on, and they would put me up between a bunch of guys playing Sublime covers.
Oh, good.
So, yeah, it was
At least
great.
the crowd was ready to laugh.
No.
No.
Those were nightmares, but fun enough that I had to keep doing it. And then 2010, a comedy club in Victoria opened up, Hecklers, which it started as a sports bar with that name, and then they started doing comedy. It is the worst name for a comedy club,
Yeah.
but it's one of the best clubs in the country.
But those early days, like I think the thing that what I think turns a lot of stand-ups off is when they get up on stage for that first time and they don't get the laughs and they bomb.
Yeah.
And most people just drop it right there.
Absolutely.
And not to say that happened in the early days, though, I'm guessing it did.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So like how do you deal with that?
My first time on stage went well because I worked so hard on like that set for 6 months. And then my second time went a little bit less good, but was still good enough where I was like, oh man, I am going to be so good at this. So then my third time, I died 1,000 deaths in 10 minutes. And I got heckled, and a lady was heckling me, and I said, what do you want? And she goes, a better comedian. And I was like, well,
pretty
me
quick, by the
too.
way.
Yeah, good for her.
Yeah.
But
Mom.
yeah, I hope she fell down the stairs on her way out of the club. But it was. I had to keep doing it, and I feel that's where a lot of people who show promise fall off the map because they can't handle the bombing.
But that's the point that I'm interested in. Is you
you just kind of said, I had to keep doing it. Most people don't feel that way. Like, what's the difference there?
I don't know. I can only speak to my experiences, and it's just that it's something I feel like I have to keep doing it because I love it, but also I'm needy.
What?
I guess I'm needy. Like, I need that. I need it. I don't know. It's not something that I ever intellectualize. Like, it's just something that I feel like I have to keep doing.
Kevin, thanks so much for I want to say this special is really funny, man.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy with how it's been received so far, and I was really excited when we recorded it that weekend that I thought it went well. And then it was released on the 21st of October, and on the 20th, I was like, what if I've made a terrible mistake? So I'm really happy with how it's been received. So thank you.
It's so cool to have you now. Come back like when it gets bigger.
Yeah, deal.
Tonight,
We've got another performance by Tegan and Sara still to come on Q.
you can't stop desire. Oh, 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 stop desire. Oh, 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 oh.
We're going to leave you today with another performance from Tegan and Sara. This is off their latest album, Love You to Death. And if you want to see more performances, if you want to see interviews that are uncut, if you want to see full episodes of QTV, find us, cbc.ca/Q. My name is Tom Power. Later on.
I can't deny I'm begging for attention. Dropping in, hoping for some tension. Getting tired of making all this racket. Waiting on you to get your ass in gear. I didn't wanna be so invested. I played it cool and then I overdressed it. You were there, I was tired of this nonsense where you pretend you don't get me, feel me, want me, like me, love me, need me. Tonight, you feel for my fire. You can't stop desire. Oh, 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 stop desire. Oh, 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 I've tried, but you feel to my fire. You can't stop desire. Oh, 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 stop desire. Oh, 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 oh. In a minute I'll be up and that you're outside. Another second you'll be walking on my wild side. You know I'm ready for anything to happen. Take this passion, turn it into action. Get me, feel me, want me, like me, love me, need me. Tonight, you feel for my fire. You can't stop desire. Oh, 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 stop desire. Oh, 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 I've tried, but you feel to my fire. You can't stop desire. Oh, 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 stop desire. Oh, 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 right where I want you, back against the wall. Trust when I promise never let you fall. You're right where I want you, back against the wall. You can trust me, I'll never let you fall. Never let you fall. Tonight, you feel for my fire. You can't stop desire. Oh, 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 stop desire. Oh, 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 I've tried, but you feel to my fire. You can't stop